So I want to thank all of you because I was getting down to the bottom of that barrel. And by taking a few Sundays off and not talking, I'm floated back up on top. So thank you. And while I was gone, you got to learn, and Reverend Teresa's visiting us today, but you got to learn from her, and I love it because we have the word love up there, and she told us what it meant, living our values every day. And I remember, Kurt, that really got you, didn't it, Kurt? Yeah. And then we had Reverend Jessie here, and her topic was a tender yes, and she taught us that we could find joy in the obstacles. That was a great talk, wasn't it? And then last week, now I wasn't here, but I heard you guys had an awesome time with Elaine Silver. And she brought one song that you really all liked, When I Let God, I Understand. Yeah, so I think we'll be hearing that from our musicians. Yes, they liked that one. So what do I do to follow all that? You know, that's like, you need to come back and go. Well, I want to tell you, how I come to a Sunday talk. I mean, it's really complicated. I just ask, okay, what am I talking about Sunday? And I do that. I keep doing that to myself. And I don't think. I just ask the question. And then something will keep coming up. Something will keep floating. The same thing will start to keep floating and floating through my mind. So, today's talk is above and beyond ego. I'm going to tell you why. Because what kept coming up for me was an event from last weekend, my weekend off. I had made plans with 3 dear friends of mine from when I was in Unity of Melbourne, before I was a minister. And they'd been friends a long time, then been roommates, but I think I've seen them once since I've been up here. I've lost touch. So 3 months ago, we put these plans into place. So Saturday morning, I pull into one of my friends' driveway. We're all meeting there, ready to go. And they're in the driveway, and I can tell they're in some kind of a discussion. Now, remember, these guys have known each other a long time. They've done spiritual work together for a long time. Well, one is sensitive. Now, her friend knows this, but her friend had washed her clothes in laundry detergent with a scent. So that meant they couldn't ride in the same car together. And then the one that was sensitive, she put something out on her back, her shoulder was hurting. The other one that had the scented clothes, well, she'd had a cough for 3 weeks, and it went into bronchitis, and she just started on medicine, and it was starting to rain, and they were in this as I pulled up. And one came to the car and said, I'm really feeling sensitive right now. And that is not like her at all. So we went, okay, let's just go inside and just spend some time with this. I was relaxed. I had time off. I was centered. I was cool. So then I said, well, you're the same size. What if the other one wears your clothes? That wouldn't have scent on them. So they went in their bedroom. 2 minutes later, they came out. That was not going to work. There's too many clothes in that closet. I can't find what I want. And I could see the pain on my other friend's face. So I said, you know what? We'll sit and visit. You go to the chiropractor. Because what's the most important thing about this weekend? The most important thing is we have time together. So how do we make that happen? She said, you mean you'll do that? You'll wait while I go to the chiropractor? And I said, yeah, we will. Because they were at the point of going, I'm not going to go, you go. I'm not going to go, you go. Let's just cancel. That's where it was getting to. She went to the chiropractor. I caught up with my other friend. It was wonderful. She came back from the chiropractor. Her whole face looked different. You can tell when someone's in pain. And she was going to push through it. Out of the pain, we were able to sit again and go, look, we take 2 separate cars. I'll go with my friend who's scent sensitive because I don't wear scented clothes. And when we get there, we've got 2 rooms. So I'll go in the room with one with the scent sensitivity, and the one with the cough goes in the other room. Perfect, right? I mean, pretty easy. So we pulled up now. I thank Joe and Julia. They recommended this place in Vero Beach. It's right on the ocean. And we got a suite, which is second and third floor over the ocean. The first floor was living room, kitchen, dining room, bathroom, spacious balcony, chairs overlooking the ocean. You go upstairs, 2 gigantic bedrooms, 2 queen beds in one, king-size bed in the other, balcony, chairs over the ocean, bathroom, laundry room. How perfect was that? We get to our room. I'm with the friend that has a sensitivity, and she goes, I can't sleep in this room, because she could feel the odor coming from the rug. I said, check the other room. She checks it, goes over. Oh, this room's okay. I said, good. You sleep there by yourself. We'll sleep over here. It was simple, but I could already watch her going into the frustration again, the concern, about the weekend that she was just going to have to drive home. But it was done. We went out, beautiful restaurants right across the street. We went in the pool. We walked on the beach. The next morning, I don't want to get there yet. I'm going ahead of myself. Okay, go. But so what I got from that is they had all been all tangled up in the ego stuff. They had all gotten into, how we get into that stuff in our life and we just don't know how to get out of it? Because what are we trying to do? We're trying to get out of it from figuring it out where? In our heads. And I love what Einstein said. He said, you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. We have to do what? We have to rise above that stuff. Now, we had a meditation class a few weeks ago, and one of the questions that came up was, why do we meditate? Why do we meditate? We know that it relaxes us, that it calms us, that it eases the stress, but why do we really meditate? The real reason is so that we can feel that connection to Spirit. So we can have that awareness of God in our life. That's the real reason we meditate. And when we do that, it's a lot easier to pull out of the drama of the ego, isn't it? When I meditate and I get used to what that feels like, when a drama comes into my life, I can make a conscious shift. I can say, no, I don't have to go there. I can go back into that place where I connect to Spirit, where I connect to a higher power. We rise above the problem. We go beyond the limitations of the ego. So I know all of you have experienced situations that you've been in, and you've tried to figure it out, right? And you've gotten really frustrated, really angst, and sometimes you feel like banging your head against the wall, right? I know I've done that. But when I can view the event from a higher perspective, the solution comes easily and clearly. 2 separate cars, 2 separate rooms, easy. Our challenge is not to get caught up in the ego's drama, not to let someone else's words or actions or energy draw us into their drama. Think about that. Now, I could have pulled into that driveway, and I could have jumped right into that with them, and no solution would have been reached. The falling out we have with our family and with our friends happens only from our ego's viewpoint. You get it? Only from my ego's viewpoint. We all have stuff. We've all got stuff going on at our human ego level. But I had some downtime. I was relaxed. My friends, they had worked hard all week long so they could catch up on their work, so they could get ahead, so they could take this time off. So they already came in to the situation, overworked, overtired, right? You've been there. And you know what happens when you're feeling like that? You get one more thing dropped on top of it. One was coping with scent allergies, a sore shoulder, the other was recovering from bronchitis. Even the best of us, when our stuff becomes too much to carry, we go into what we call an unconscious default. We don't even know we're doing it. But we can become defensive. We can become angry. We can criticize. We can judge even the people closest to us, right? Those of you that live together, you know this comes up, right? And then we have what? We have conflict. So, what's our responsibility? Not to get caught up in the stuff. Not to be a victim of someone else's stuff. Not to enter into the drama. And I bet right now, going through your heads, are all these little dramas you could have chosen not to enter into, right? My responsibility is to make a conscious ascension. Isn't that cool? A conscious ascension. To rise up above it. So, as I kept thinking about this talk, as it was coming together, I kept hearing these words in my head. Up, 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 and away! I said to Kim, was that Superman or was it Mighty Mouse? Superman came first, so it must have been Superman. You know, Superman started in 1938, and Mighty Mouse in 1942. They've been around a long time, sometimes longer than a lot of us, maybe. But like Clark Kent, when my problems get too big for me to solve from my ego personality, I got to remove my disguise. I got to just tear it off, step into my power to who I really am. Yeah. So, you know, I love this picture. Can you just, so here's all this drama going on around you. Can you just say, okay, man, I'm just going to take off this disguise and step into my power, soar above it, fly above it. I like these images because you're going to be going through the week and something's going to happen, okay? We rise above the stuff, the limited thoughts, feelings, emotions, beyond the petty desires, the misunderstandings, the conflict. Like Superman, we soar above the ego and view the situation from a higher place, from a different dimension where we can stand strong, calm, in our power. I love the image. You just think of something going on in your life and that you have the power to rise up. And when you do, there's that strength, there's that calmness, and there's that ability to see the whole picture. Eckhart Tolle wrote, "The primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but thought about it. Be aware of the thoughts you are thinking." What do we call that? Our thinking? Yeah, be aware of that. He says, separate them from the situation, which is always neutral. Now, it might not seem like it, but the situation is neutral. It is as it is. It just is. So Bert Jacobs was the mayor of a small town, and the town was facing a crisis. So they were holding a special council meeting, and he was trying to make everybody happy, solve the problem. And of course, he wasn't making everyone happy, and some folks were getting fired up, and some were getting downright nasty. And one woman who really got upset walked out of the meeting, and she called Bert's wife at home. And she said, "Is this the home of Bert Jacobs, the mayor?" And his wife said, "Yes, it is." And the woman said, "Well, would you please tell him his girlfriend would like him to call her?" Now, the mayor's wife, a very wise politician's wife, said, "I'll be glad to. Please give me your name and number, and I'll give it to Bert." The woman answered, "Oh, Bert knows my number." the mayor's wife. Now, you see how neutral she is? I'm sure he does, dear. But you'll need to give it to me so I can tell him which girlfriend called. So when I can remain neutral, it's not going to get to me, is it? In Luke 3:17, John the Baptist is preaching. He's preparing the way for the coming of Jesus. So he's telling people they've got to clean up their act before the Messiah comes. Because he's telling them about the Messiah. He is ready to separate the chaff from the wheat with his winnowing fork. Now, why was it, as I was thinking about this talk, I kept getting separate the wheat from the chaff? I mean, it just kept coming to me, so I had to go look it up. And the rest of it says, then he will clean up the thrashing area, gathering the wheat into his barn, but burning the chaff. So, if you have a picture of it, yeah. So the chaff is like the husk around the wheat. And the winnowing fork is a pitchfork, basically. You know, I grew up on a farm when I was a little kid. We did hay. And to dry the hay, you'd get the pitchfork, you'd go up there and you'd throw the hay up in the air, you'd stir it up. And you could see the chaff flying off it. So, biblically, it meant to separate the sinners from the ones that weren't sinners, the good from the bad. But metaphysically, it means to separate things of value from things of no value. What's important from what's not important. What was important for me last weekend is to be with my friends. What was important is to make that happen. We separate the chaff from the wheat. We rise above the ego. We separate our fear-based thinking from our love-based thinking. So last Sunday morning, I woke up like at 6:30. It's like everyone was sleeping, and I walked out onto the balcony. And it was still kind of dark, and I think Dan has a picture there. But there was this bright crescent moon. And it didn't come out very good, but you can just see the dawn starting to break, and that little dot up there is the moon. And it was so quiet and so still, and you could just feel spirit everywhere. And I was probably out there about 20 minutes by myself, and then my friend that I was sharing the room with woke up, and she kind of came out kind of groggy. And wow. And we sat there and we watched the sunrise come up together. We had a lazy morning. We had coffee on the balcony. And later, as we were going on our way home, we stopped at this wonderful cafe on the ocean and had a great breakfast. If we had allowed ego to direct our plans, we would have missed a wonderful weekend together and precious, priceless time with one another. What do we miss when we get into those dramas? When we get into the tangledness of our stuff? We miss being with that person. We miss the joy of life. When we separate the chaff from the wheat, we experience a new kind of consciousness arising in us. An inner peace, an inner strength that guides us clearly and easily through all of life's stuff. So this week, I want you to notice, I want you to pay attention of when your ego is trying to solve a situation or a problem, or when it's getting into somebody else's stuff. And if you see yourself doing that, here's what you're going to do. You're going to look for the nearest phone booth. Now, chances are you're not going to find one. So instead, what are you going to do? Take what? A few deep breaths, right? And you're going to change from your Clark Kent ego into your super self, into the power and the strength that you really are. And then you kind of look around if you want, and you're going to say, up, 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 and away, and let your consciousness soar above and beyond ego. God bless you.